If you saw my video last week on MCrider, I compared 30 different motorcycles by the price per unit of horsepower to give us a unique look at motorcycle performance per dollar spent. Now, some of the bikes that performed well in that list were the less expensive Japanese bikes that have decent horsepower numbers, and bikes that didn't perform as well were more expensive cruisers that are lower on horsepower numbers. For cruisers, torque is where they shine, so I thought this week we'd take a look at price per unit of torque. We'll compare the same exact 30 motorcycles from last week's episode, and just like last week, there were some big surprises for me in this list as well. So watch this video till the end, see who comes out on top of our torque per dollar spent list, and then stay tuned after the list because I've got a free download for you that will allow you to compare all the bikes that were used in this video and last week's video. You can see horsepower and torque numbers and where each one of them ranked. few bikes that performed well in both lists: the Yamaha XSR 900, the Suzuki GSX S1000, the Kawasaki Z900, and the Indian FTR, all placed in the top 10 on both lists, proving that they offer good horsepower and good torque at numbers that brings a fair MSRP as well. Several bikes made big jumps up the list when we compared our torque per dollar spent. The Indian Chief moved from 23 in last week's list all the way up to number 1 this week. The Harley Lowrider S and the Harley Road King both moved up the list really well. But the Triumph Rocket 3 shot up the list all the way to number 2 in spite of being one of the most expensive bikes in our list, but thanks to its massive 163 foot-pounds of torque, it moved all the way up to number 2 on this list. What stayed the same was a poor little Honda Grom. It came in last week in our horsepower race, and it comes in last this week when we compare torque. The Honda Goldwing finished in 27th place in both lists, so it didn't perform nearly as well as I kind of would expect it to, but that was based on its higher MSRP. Now, understand these lists are far from perfect. There's a lot more to a motorcycle than raw performance. Amenities, style, comfort, electronic packages, a whole bunch of other options will determine if a motorcycle is worth the MSRP to you. In fact, I love my Indian Challenger, but it didn't perform particularly well in either one of these lists. But I know that there's a whole lot more to that motorcycle than could be accounted for in these lists. So take each list for what it is. It's an interesting way of looking at motorcycle performance based on dollars spent, but understand there's a whole lot more that goes into finding the right motorcycle for you. If you want to get into the details that we discovered in this list and see where every motorcycle falls, compare horsepower and torque and how they rank compared to each other, I've got a free download for you that I put together, a spreadsheet that's got all of the numbers that we used to make this video and last week's video. You can download that free of charge at mcrider.com/mclist. You'll find a link on that page to download the chart that's got all the bikes listed, and it's an easy way to study the results of our fun little experiment. You can print it out and add a few of your favorite bikes to the list and see how they compare to the ones that I chose for this list. While you're there, consider becoming a member of MCrider and supporting my ability to continue creating videos that are saving lives, building better riders, and helping us have a little fun with motorcycles along the way. As a member, you'll get instant access to the forums and the field guide. All the details can be found at mcrider.com. Till next week, guys, this is Kevin with MCrider, and I'll see you on the road.